Welcome to day 6 of our dopamine fast. This is an important one, so pay close attention, get out your notebook, get ready to write some things down because what we cover in today's video is going to serve you through the rest of your fast. Remember back when I described how dopamine works in the brain and how the dopamine pathway in the brain prefers balance, neither an extreme of pleasure nor an extreme of pain. The brain wants us in a healthy middle ground. So, as I said, when we're constantly reaching for the things that bring us pleasure or the things that help us escape from pain or soothe pain and discomfort, the brain naturally has to respond, right? For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. This is true in the brain. When we go for the pleasurable things, it's followed up by a dip, a low. The high highs we reach for are balanced out by low lows. This is why we feel cravings, withdrawal symptoms, irritability, fogginess, all sorts of unpleasant sensations and experiences in the body and in the mind when we step away from pursuing all the pleasure we've been pursuing. The opposite, though, is true, that when we go toward discomfort and intentionally seek out uncomfortable, unpleasurable, difficult things, the brain then rewards us, bringing us back up to that baseline by giving us a little boost of dopamine. So a big part of this dopamine fast is not just removing the pleasurable things that we constantly reach for, but to start adding in uncomfortable things. So we're seeking pain in order to receive the pleasure. Now listen, when I say pain, I'm not talking actual pain. I don't want you hurting yourself or harming yourself just to get these dopamine boosts, but it is worth noting that there are plenty of things that we can do that are very uncomfortable and unpleasant and boring that we should be leaning into during this dopamine fast, because that is also helping to reset that dopamine pathway and get our dopamine levels back to a healthy place. So, get out your notebook and take some time to think about the things that you could do this month or during these 4 weeks that are not pleasant on purpose. And I'll actually read straight out of Anna Lemke's book here, some things that she and her clients have leaned into over the years that help with this. So it can include things like making art or music, which might not seem like inherently unpleasant things, but taking on any sort of creative project, something that we have to stick with even when it's humbling or frustrating, can be very helpful. So taking on a project that you're not fully excited about, something that you know will humble you and challenge you as you pursue it, that can include reading a hard book. Other examples are talking to the barista or the shopkeeper or the storekeeper instead of using an app. Walking or biking instead of driving, although for those of you who are in the cold days of winter with me, honestly, taking a cold winter walk counts. I have to walk my dog every day, even though it's freezing cold outside. This counts as something that is not pleasurable. She also talks about exercising in moderation without being plugged into a digital device. Just doing the exercise and fully being tuned into the embodied experience of that exercise. The sweating, the muscles working hard, all of the unpleasant things that come with exercise. Taking cold showers, definitely hard this time of year, although that could also be just going out and sitting on your porch in the cold weather for a few minutes at a time. She talks about meditating, which doesn't maybe inherently seem, for some of us, that's definitely not a pleasurable activity. Some people, though, might think that that is really pleasant, or we know from experience that meditating has pleasurable results. But we also know that not every meditation is a pleasant experience. Even if you enjoy meditating, even if you like it, there are some days you don't feel like doing it, and that's key as well. So if there are things that you're already in the habit of doing, let's say you already exercise, or you already meditate, or you already make art, or you already have a journaling practice, do it even on the days that you really don't feel like it. That counts. Doing things when you don't feel like doing them is doing something in that dopamine pathway in the brain. So all of these, she adds unplugged in parentheses afterward, which means not having headphones in, not listening to music, not filling the empty space while you do these things, but just silently focused on these singular activities without trying to zhuzh them up with the types of things that we usually use to make them a little more exciting. And that can include playing with your pets, spending time with your kids, which it might sound mean to say that that's not a pleasurable activity, but sometimes it's hard to be fully present with someone, whether it's your spouse or a pet. So being fully and completely present with whoever you're with counts. Being out in nature, cleaning out a closet, or doing other household chores like folding the laundry or vacuuming, washing your car or cleaning out the interior of your car. The list could go on and on there. There are plenty of things that we do that are, speaking for myself, I listen to podcasts and audiobooks and music constantly. And what is it like to do that stuff to do our chores, without using those headphones or those devices? I know some of you watching this have music playing all the time. What's it like to be in a silent home? I've been practicing driving in silence, and it's uncomfortable. I'm just with my thoughts. I can feel the urge to turn on the radio, to turn on a podcast, to turn on my video messaging app and chat with my friends while I drive. It really has been a challenge for me to just lean into driving in silence. So take some time here, write down examples of activities that you would like to lean into, whether they're intentional activities that you're adding to your life, like exercising, meditating, journaling, reading, things you're not already doing, or think of activities that you are doing that you're, like I said, sort of enriching or adding on to with music or podcasts or things like that. And can you practice doing those activities unplugged, as Anna Lemke puts it? This is key. Now, anticipate your resistance to these activities. 100% know that there are going to be days, moments that you don't want to do them at all. Remind yourself that the whole point of the dopamine fast is to reset your dopamine pathway, which sounds kind of jargony, so let's just talk about what that actually means. What we are doing here is not just getting rid of those habits that we have some shame around and that we don't feel good about, that are wasting our time, wasting our energy, making us more anxious, making us more unfocused. Yes, that. But by stripping those away and by doing the hard or boring or mundane things, resetting those pathways in the brain means that after these 4 weeks, we are going to be able to experience pleasure and joy in things that we might not typically. So we won't have to always be reaching for these highly dopaminergic, which are activities that spike our dopamine levels or substances that spike our dopamine levels. We won't have to be reaching for the high highs, because once we step away from constantly seeking pleasure, and once we step into seeking discomfort and leaning into it and even pursuing it, what we'll find afterward is that we'll be able to take pleasure in the more mundane moments. We'll be able to be more focused. We'll be able to be more present with the moment without always thinking about what we can do next and what we need to add on and what would make this moment even better, right? So this is what we're wanting, is to be more present in our lives, to be acting in ways that we're proud of, or at least not acting in ways that we're not proud of. So remember the big picture here. And as you feel your resistance to doing these things, remember, that's the whole point. What we're doing here is training ourselves out of being obsessed with pleasure and getting ourselves to a place where not only are we able to experience pleasure and joy more easily after this dopamine fast, but we're also not going to be so resistant or overwhelmed by discomfort, emotional, physical, or mental. So write this stuff down. And I know I'm saying write it down in a journal, but my husband and I were just talking about this. You write the stuff down in the journal, you flip to the new page to write the next day in the journal, and then that just becomes a page in the past. So some of this stuff I think is worth writing down on a piece of paper or on a whiteboard if you have one, and having it somewhere where you're going to see it every day. That includes writing down the things that you're giving up, so whatever addictions that you're tackling during your dopamine fast. That includes writing down the hard things that you're taking on to give you those dopamine boosts in a healthier way, right? That leveling out from seeking out or leaning into discomfort and challenge. And then remember also that in all the free time, we're also trying to replace the unhealthy dopamine seeking behaviors with new behaviors that aren't unhealthy. So picking up those hobbies that you've always been meaning to get around to, learning the new things, working on the things that you do want to fill your time with, so that after this dopamine fast, you don't just go back to reaching for whatever it was 4 weeks ago that you were so in the habit of reaching for. The point of this whole fast is not to just do 4 weeks and then go right back to the way we were. Odds are the reason you're doing this dopamine fast is because you're realizing you have some unhealthy relationships with these things, and I don't think any of us really want to go back to having those unhealthy relationships. So have a new life ready for yourself when this fast ends, and make that possible, or prepare for that new life by implementing it now, right? We want to continue doing the hard things. We want to continue leaning into the challenges after the dopamine fast ends, and we want to continue reaching for those healthier behaviors that are aligned with our values after the dopamine fast ends. Write this stuff down, not just in a journal, but somewhere that you're going to see it. Put it on the wall, look at it, make sure it's talking to you every day. So, as Glennon Doyle would say, we can do hard things. Good luck, and I will see you on day 7.